Imagine this. You walk into a room, not with arrogance, not with flash, but with a calm that doesn't ask for attention, yet receives it anyway. Her eyes lock onto you, not because you tried to impress her, but because you didn't. She's stunning, the kind of woman men orbit like satellites, endlessly chasing validation in exchange for fleeting attention. And yet, in that still moment, you're the gravity. She can't place why, but she feels it. You don't speak loudly, but your silence has a weight that echoes deeper than the noise of every man who came before you. She doesn't know it yet, but she's already curious. And curiosity, for a woman like her, is the beginning of surrender. Welcome to Stoic Spirit, where we break down the hidden codes of attraction, not with gimmicks or cheap tricks, but with psychological truth. Today's video will change the way you see female desire forever. Because underneath the makeup, the confidence, and the curated Instagram perfection, every woman hides emotional fault lines, psychological triggers that most men can't see. And the man who learns to move with quiet precision, not seeking attention but commanding it, can tap into these fault lines and create emotional impact so deep it lingers even in his absence. This isn't manipulation. This is clarity. This is how attraction really works beneath the surface. So why do most men fail, even when they do everything right? Why do women pull away from the guy who's always available, always complimenting her, always trying to prove he's worthy? Because attraction isn't built on logic. It's built on emotional contrast. And the man who makes her feel something real, something raw, something unpredictable, is the one she remembers, not the one who texts good morning every day, not the one who walks on eggshells just to keep her around. This video isn't for the faint of heart. What you're about to learn will challenge the way you've been taught to behave with women. We're going deep into 5 hidden female weaknesses, psychological cravings that women will never admit out loud, but that drive their most passionate, obsessive attractions. And once you understand them, you'll never see dating, texting, or emotional connection the same way again. And here's the twist. The man she truly wants isn't the one who tries to be perfect. It's the one who becomes the world she can escape into, a world she can't control, a world she craves even when it hurts. That's the foundation of deep, primal female attraction. So get ready, because what comes next will flip the script on everything you thought you knew about women, and the game of emotional dominance will never look the same again. But before we unlock the first weakness, ask yourself this. When she meets you, does she feel like she already knows you? Or does she feel like she's about to meet a story that hasn't been written yet? That question alone will tell you everything about why she either forgets you or starts chasing you. Now let's begin. But here's the paradox most men never understand. The more you revolve your life around her, the more invisible you become. Women don't dream of being the center of a man's world. They dream of being drawn into a man's world that's already powerful, vibrant, and full of motion. A world that doesn't pause for her, but invites her to keep up. And the moment she realizes she has to rise to your level just to stay close, that's when the chase begins. Not because she's playing games, but because she's wired to admire a man who doesn't need her validation to feel alive. The man who is emotionally self-sufficient, who doesn't text her from a place of lack, but from a place of overflow, who doesn't explain himself, over-apologize, or look for signs of reassurance in her voice. A man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away because his foundation is already solid. And when that man looks at her, not with neediness, not with desperation, but with a calm, grounded certainty, she feels it, not in her mind, but in her body. She leans in without understanding why, because this kind of presence, it bypasses logic. It cuts straight into her subconscious. And here's the part most men never realize. She doesn't even want you to explain it. She doesn't want to know why she's drawn to you. She wants to feel it. She wants to be swept into the mystery of you, without a map, without a plan, without the security of full emotional control. And that leads us to a truth most men aren't ready for. But you need to hear it if you want to become truly magnetic. Because here's weakness number 6, the subtle addiction women have to psychological tension. I'm not talking about toxic drama or emotional chaos. I'm talking about the pull, the invisible thread of uncertainty that keeps her emotionally alert, constantly wondering where she stands, how much she affects you, and what you might do next. Women say they want emotional safety, and they do. But that safety can't be sterile. It has to feel earned. She wants to feel secure inside a world that's unpredictable. She wants to feel cherished by a man who is untamed. And the key to this isn't found in saying all the right things. It's found in being the right man. The man who doesn't chase closure, who can sit in silence and let her wonder, who isn't threatened by her distance or emotional storms. The man who doesn't explain himself when she withdraws, because he understands the power of letting her come to him. Psychological tension isn't about manipulation. It's about contrast. It's about pulling her into a rhythm she can't predict. One moment you're fully present. The next, you're focused on your purpose. She reaches for your attention and finds she has to earn it. She tries to decode your silence and ends up decoding herself. Because real masculine energy, it doesn't give all its secrets away. And this is where everything changes. Because the moment she feels that emotional gravity, your pull, your center, your calm detachment wrapped in presence, her brain goes into overdrive. She starts comparing you to every other man who gave her everything too fast. Every man who chased, who begged, who folded under pressure. And suddenly, you're not just a man, you're a mystery, a puzzle she's desperate to solve. And she'll tell herself stories to justify the chase. She'll say it's because of your voice, or your vibe, or your eyes. But none of that is it. What really hooked her was the emotional contrast you gave her, the unpredictability, the thrill, the tension. And that brings us to the 7th hidden weakness, what I call the fantasy fracture. Because every woman, no matter how logical, successful or composed, lives with a quiet inner fracture between who she presents to the world and what she really craves in a man. Society told her to chase stability, to go for the man with the right resume, the right career, the predictable, safe energy. But in her fantasies, that's not the man she dreams of. In her fantasies, she's not with the man who folds his dreams for her comfort. She's with the man who risks, who leads, who doesn't flinch when she tests him, who calls her out when she's wrong, who doesn't need her to feel complete, yet still chooses her. And the deeper that fracture runs, the more intense the attraction becomes when she meets a man who steps through it. Because it's rare, and rare triggers obsession. And here's the real secret. She doesn't want you to close that fracture with logic. She wants you to walk beside it with presence, patience, and unwavering self-respect. When she feels your grounded energy, not in your words, but in your silences, not in your validation, but in your restraint, not in your praise, but in your standards, she starts to trust you. Not because you gave her what she wanted, but because you gave her what she needed. And that leads to the 8th weakness, the unconscious hunger for polarity. This is a truth most men today are too afraid to live out, because they've been conditioned to believe that sameness equals safety, that mirroring her emotions, minimizing your masculinity, and softening your assertiveness will make her more comfortable. And while that might make her like you, it will never make her crave you. Because deep inside every woman is a desire to be emotionally led, not controlled, but led, to surrender, not because she's weak, but because she feels safe enough in your strength to let go. Feminine energy relaxes in the presence of unapologetic masculine energy. And masculine energy doesn't chase, it doesn't flinch, it doesn't react emotionally to her moods, her silence, or her tests. It absorbs, it observes, it remains unshaken, and when she feels that, it activates something primal in her, something beyond words, something that whispers, "This is a man I can trust." And now you understand, this isn't about tricks or tactics or being a bad boy for the sake of rebellion. It's about energy, polarity, psychological contrast, emotional gravity. And the less you try to earn her affection, the more she wants to give it. And we're just getting started, because in the next section of this story, I'm going to reveal the most forbidden concept of all, the one thing women fantasize about but will never admit, the emotional loophole that turns respect into obsession, desire into devotion, and attraction into something irreversible. But I'll warn you, it's not for every man. It's only for the one who's willing to stand alone, to lead without apology, and to become the kind of presence that changes everything she thought she knew about men. The world should be perfection, yes, but only for the man who doesn't need it to be.